Hello and welcome, little chatfish, to another bunch cast. Today we're going to be talking about the Forever Winter, a game that just came out relatively recently, only 4 days ago. It's a game that's received relatively mixed reviews in the beginning, but people have begrudgingly come around to appreciating it more and more, especially after some hotfixes that were desperately needed to turn things around for this game. But I wanted to talk about this game because I do think it's important to talk about it, because I think it's important to point out that this is a game you should, no doubt, put on your wish list. It is well worth wish listing, and if you don't want to buy it already. And I would argue that if you want to, it's only like $27, which isn't actually a terribly priced game, honestly. It's actually a relatively reasonable priced game for a change, which is a rarity, with the plans of later changing the game to $50 upon its completion. So that's their intentions with this game. So I wanted to talk about this game because I think this game is actually worth talking about. Now, there are a couple problems to talk about first. Like, one, the game is not ready. It's not done. It's obviously an early access title. I would say that it may have entered early access a bit too soon, just on a pinch, right? But if you want to participate in it and try it or give it a shot, I'd recommend doing so. Bearing in mind that there's a lot of jank with this one, right? For those of you who are no strangers to Slav jank or, Jap jank or any of those other various culture janks of games, this will come as little to no surprise to you. Like, if you're familiar with Stalker or the likes of Metro and stuff like that, you won't be remotely bothered by the jank in this game. In fact, you might find it even charming to a degree, as in a way, I have begrudgingly come around to accepting the tanks flying through the air at Mach 11 is kind of funny in the distance, and it sort of implies that shit's going down on one side of the map. But we're going to talk about this game, and we're going to talk about its details, its mechanics, its features, its functions, because it's got quite a lot to it. So, this game is relatively simple. It's an extraction shooter. The core premise is you gather resources, and you extract with the resources you get. Now, unlike compared to, let's say, Helldivers 2, you have an unlimited time to do so in the play space area, right? And the play space areas are preset, pre-crafted locations, which have a lot of work put into them. It's very important to underline the artwork and art direction of this game. It was clearly a game made by artists, not so much game designers. You can see that with the UI and some other elements of the game too, but that is not something to sneeze at. It does have its strengths, and its strengths is its atmosphere, and its charm is its art. It is a beautiful game, despite being kind of janky, despite having some janky walking animations, or silly things like that, or tanks flying through the sky at Mach 11, or enemies spawning right on top of you. It just sort of happens from time to time. But if you're familiar with janky games, you'll be able to sort of hand wave that. So I would say this is a journey worth embarking. It can be played single player as well. But the other thing you can do with this game, the other things to do in this game to bear in mind, is that it is sort of a roguelite, kind of. Not quite. As somebody who personally hates roguelites, there is meta progression, meaning that there is progression to your character's abilities and basically like your skill levels for your character, and that will always carry over. So you can constantly level stronger and stronger characters. Now, the area of progression I'm a little bit iffy on, and I know a lot of you are, is worth mentioning. Now, this game has an in-game system where you collect water. When you collect water, you return it to your base and you drop it off at a key location. Once you do this, this water will buy you 24 hours of game time.
More gold,
now,
Your Majesty!
If you don't collect more water, and that water were to deplete, everything you've accumulated in that run or that base that you built up will die and disappear in the innards. I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't mind the roguelite element of having to collect water to keep your base alive, but I'm not a fan of it being tied to real life time, which is what it is tied to. And it being tied to real life time means that we must constantly get water. Like, I'm like, okay, if I don't play this within 10 days, I'm going to lose my base. And it's kind of like an annoying thing to think about rather than a game that respects the player's time. I would urge that, I know some people want the water just removed entirely,
gold, Your Majesty!
but I think a good compromise would be to move the hours or the time or change how it functions, that water isn't in real life time, rather water is logged game time instead. So when in game, the water will be consumed, but outside of game, the water is not consumed. This will mean that the player, if they have a job or various things, or let's say life gets hectic, or God forbid, we had a loss in our community and it was probably really tough, right? Some people handle loss very, very hard. It's very difficult for them. And then, the game's not going to respect that. The game's disrespectful towards that loss because it's going to continue to progress anyways. Some people need time to grieve. Some people need time to mourn. Some people need time to, do other things. Some people want to play other games. And a game that respects your time is a game that understands that it's not the only game in your library. This is something that I always talk about when it comes to AAA. AAA doesn't understand this. AAA doesn't respect this. AAA games aren't even compressed. They're 150 gigabytes plus half the time. And the reason for this is because they don't respect you. They don't respect your time. They're the one game for you, and that's all they think of. They don't think that you have other games in your rotisserie or your roster. Rotisserie. Chicken. But your roster that you would want to play. And that I find to be incredibly disrespectful to the player. That's why my only real gripe about this game, my only major complaint in terms of fundamental philosophy behind the game, is the water water system. I'm not a big fan of water being a thing in the game. I think water, if they want to do a time thing and make it sort of it's part of the universe, it makes sense. Yeah, water is absolutely a necessary function for life, and so getting pure and clean drinkable water is incredibly important. Just make it tied to the game's in-game running time rather than that. Cut it in half from 24 hours to 12 hours of in-game time per water. Or if that's not enough, then cut it down to like 6 or something. But I would prefer that over the 24-hour water consumption thing. It's just a thing that just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And it's honestly the only thing I really have to complain about philosophy-wise, design-wise. Now, when it comes to its overall performance, it's got varying degrees. Sometimes it's very laggy for others. Connectivity problems are incredibly high, so you're going to have to endure these things. But if you're willing to put up with those kinds of things and functions, what you have before you is an actually relatively competently made game with a actual future in front of it. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to compare this to another game. A game you might all recall. Starship Troopers Extermination is a horde-based survival game that came out not that long ago. Now, the problem with Starship Troopers Extermination is that Starship Troopers Extermination is sort of lacking direction and focus. It had 3 classes at the beginning and had a sort of mission-based, like, make a base and survive bug attacks, but it had no clear designs, and it had no clear focus with its mission directions or functionality. It is a game that sadly plateaued, and many players are now waking up to this fact. And it's a game that will kind of be forgotten in time, and only remembered as a novelty. And that's sad, because it didn't have a direction. This is the one thing I definitely see has a direction. This game understands what it is. It is a game where you are a survivor, a scavenger, in a post-apocalyptic war that's been raging on since as far as anyone can remember, honestly. And your whole goal is to gather resources, bring them back to base, and trade them for credits and resources in exchange for buying upgrades for your base and as well as progressing your character. Now, the mix of pick and choose your battles is a refreshing take, right? In the later stages of Helldivers, you'll find yourself doing a similar thing. But here, you have to really factor in the bullets. Because unlike in Helldivers, this game stands shoulder to shoulder. It's not really competing with it. But I can see why people might say, and have said, that it is very similar to it in terms of its philosophy. I think this is a game that can easily stand shoulder to shoulder. Shoulder to shoulder. Ugh. Because here it's more about stealth. Here it's very much about picking and choosing your battles. Because every bullet you bring is part of your economy. It's part of your resources. You only have so much. And watching the Europan and Eurasians go at it and beating the ever-living crap out of each other with battle mechs, with massive tank fleets and field battles and stuff like that, and drones, and then surviving the night horrors of the cyborgs at night as they hunt you. That's all really, really, really cool. It does have really high PC requirements. This is true, Todd. One thing I will say is that Squealy, despite should realistically not be able to run this game, can run it, though with problems.
I run it, but it is borderline it's not fun to play with how my game runs.
Yep, because what happens with his game is that you'll be running around and then randomly it'll just stop, basically. Or he'll
just stutter, and then my camera will get flicked all over the place.
So one thing they gotta really do with this game is they do gotta hone in the optimization. So if you've got a low-end rig, this is a game I would recommend avoiding for now. Wishlist it, wait till they get the optimization going. Optimization is always something that comes. Optimization is always something that comes when it comes to most games. It'll take them time. They do need to really hone in on the optimization though, because that is something that would definitely help. The high PC requirements really aren't that necessary if they can just figure out how to set lower textures and basically handle that stuff. That would easily be runnable, in my opinion. It's just they need to work on that optimization stuff. Many of you Chatfish I know hate live service games. Well, it's become a second job. That's true. Got to do dailies and weeklies and monthlies. That's not just a live service thing. That's a problem with mobile games. A problem with
And the
MMOs
problem I
as
see
well,
with
a
what
lot
you
of
want
games.
regarding the water timer, by the way, that is just how these kind of games work. These
Well,
extraction shooters.
They've already said that they're actually thinking about changing it based on
Yes.
player feedback.
But this is just what comes with the genre, because these games are
Not entirely.
MMOs.
So Helldivers 2
No,
doesn't have a... I know, but Helldivers 2
Let me
doesn't
finish.
have...
I'm talking about games like Tarkov, not like Helldivers 2 give.
Yeah, but these are extraction shooters. So you
Because
need
this
to be
game's
more
taking
specific.
far more from Tarkov than Helldivers 2, because extraction shooter is a very broad genre.
It is. That's why you got to be very specific about what game you're talking about, right?
I'm more so referring to games like Tarkov, and this game is taking a lot from Tarkov. It has your base, which you can develop, your character's personal skills, which are currently lacking, by the way. I want them to improve upon that and make it less
Yeah, it's a bit boring.
percentage.
It's like, oh, your
Points.
character gets a 5% bonus to this. That's like 5%
You
incremental.
unlock weapons that kind of suck until you get the later game.
Well, you also got to level up
You
your
have to
guns to
you
get
have to
better.
prestige your character, so you're just constantly resetting how much you're able to work with at any given time.
When it comes to leveling, there's a couple of factors we have to talk about. There's your base progression, which can disappear, right? Then there is, and that's if you run out of water, so your run ends basically. Then there is your permanent meta progression, which is your character. Now I'm not sure if the weapon progression that your character has also applies to other things as well, but basically, weapon progression is the weapons your character starts becoming more proficient with. As your proficiency with the weapon increases, you can buy more things, better rails for it, better scopes, and the guns are incredibly customizable. My only problem is they use acronyms, and I've always been terrible at that, so I just don't really know where's the rail so I can choose the different scopes and stuff, stuff like that. I don't know if it deletes our inventories when our hideouts run a thing, but that's something I definitely think they need to change.
No, the timers in Tarkov specifically are
No, he's not talking about that. He's talking about this game.
Yes, but let me finish. Because the way Tarkov works is, he said Tarkov doesn't delete your inventory when your hideout runs out of fuel.
That's true. Now about
I'm talking
this
about a
game.
different timer, because they both have different kinds of timers.
Go ahead.
The way these kinds of games like Tarkov typically handle your progression is that they'll reset you at a certain point, so that players are at a more even level, so the no-lifers and the fresh casuals can actually interact with each other without being curb stomped at every turn. So I'm curious if they plan on having resets like Tarkov does.
Okay, so to answer your question, Ragnarok, when it comes to the system, I don't know if you actually lose everything when the water runs out. I do know you lose your base progression.
It says you lose everything besides your character
That's what
experience
he wants to
and your
actually
weapon
talk about.
experience.
But either way, Chatfish, either way. The one thing I will say is the game has a really good art style. Now, complaints aside, and moving on past that, the big problem the game also suffers from is AI. The AI is very derpy, and the stealth mechanics and systems are undercooked pretty badly. Basically, they need you to have an ability where you can pick up a rock and throw it to create awareness. Now, you won't really need to do that in too many situations, because what normally happens is weapons fire from various conflicts will draw awareness. And as the enemies and NPCs fight each other, weapons fire will sort of pull enemies into sort of like mosh pit battles and stuff like that. And so that normally takes care of itself. But one thing they definitely need to do is better handle how stealth is displayed. Right now, there is no user interface or play elements that really tell you about stealth beyond just there's a question mark that appears above an enemy's head when they're alerted by something, by you specifically, and that bar slowly fills up. You don't really know why the bar fills up, because often there are times in the battles where there is a raging firestorm of battling going on, and you're running through the middle of it, and nobody seems to be focused on you. Now, I think that might be something that they might have explained at some point down the line, but this is something the game definitely needs to start explaining better. My theory is that it's because when enemies are aggroed onto each other, they can't really spot you that well. They get like a massive debuff to like spotting and noticing you, which is good because it means they're focused on the fighting and the battle at hand, rather than some scrappy scavenger who is all intents and purposes, an afterthought. He's like a little bug skittering around by comparison. So, but the one thing they definitely need to do is handle the stealth. The stealth is functional, but it's also almost broken in a lot of ways, where enemies will just run around or run right past you or stare directly at you for 5 minutes in our streams of this game and do virtually nothing, but just simply stare and then turn around on the heel and move away. And I'm not sure how that's meant to work. And I'm worried that even them turning it up is going to be a little bit weird, because there's some levels that it works kind of perfect the way it is now. And if you actually make them any more competent, there's nothing to hide behind. The Ashen Mesa is a great example of this. It's a massive field battle that takes place with a small tiny city on one side, a burnt out battle fortress on the right, and another battle fortress on the upper left where there's a massive ravine and split in a city. The one thing there is that, okay, you have this, but what are you gonna do? Like, what exactly would you do if the enemy could spot better, right? And so there's not a lot of cover, there's not a lot of systems to engage with. If they simply improve the AI's visual and auditory, like, listening skills, I think we just die instantly. And that's a problem. That is a major, major problem. But that is something they're going to have to definitely figure out. And definitely make it so that there's certain things that are just a little bit more easier to do. The second thing to talk about is gunplay. The gunplay in this game is passable. It's not great. It's not terrible. It's just passable. And that's not good. It needs to be heavily improved. They need to focus on the gunplay and the combat. Like in the trailer, when you see like in one of the trailers, there's like a guy fighting. That looks pretty cool. The combat does not play that way at all. The combat plays very jank, and the melee is also incredibly jank. And they need to really polish up the guns and the overall feel of gunplay, making enemies have more kinetic impact. This is something we're going to talk about and compare with another extraction shooter, Helldivers. Again, why I go back to this one is because it does so many things right. It does some things wrong too. We'll talk about that later in a different day. But the one thing that Helldivers 2 does incredibly well is kinetic impact. Now, they didn't do this perfectly when they launched either, but they're getting better at improving this, and this is something that a lot of developers have to improve. It's basically when you shoot your gun at a target, and the weapon kinetically impacts the target. The target, who is then firing on you, its accuracy is diminished because they are being shot at. And being shot at means that they can't hit you as easily because they're being, hit. Their body is recoiling from the blast and impact. This game, what I can tell, is really just aim down sights and point your gun at the enemy's soft spot, being their head usually, and it's a DPS race. The enemy is a little too accurate, and I think you probably feel the same way, Squealy, in terms of they just hit everything.
Like if you don't have any cover, you're just flooded with gunfire.
You're just erased. Now, I don't mind the lethality factor, I want to point out, but I do mind the fact that it feels like enemies are so precisely accurate for some things, and it feels like all the time. And I wish there was a little bit more with information about troops, like a sort of way, like it's some sort of encyclopedia. I wish Helldivers 2 had this too, where we could actually look at the units and see more about them and how they function. Or at least I have not found it. And if you do know about it, chat, just let me know. I will correct myself at once. But
I will actually
there's a lot of different
say that
enemy types in that game.
the time to kill is actually very, very generous in this game.
Mm-hmm.
especially compared to other games that we compared to so far.
Yeah, you kill enemies pretty fast in this.
And they kill you pretty slowly.
Yep. The big thing
It's
is I think another issue, now that you brought that up, Squealy, is how they handle you being shot. When you're shot, it just makes your screen do the Call of Duty thing, where your screen gets all flashy and you can't see shit. You know?
No, I know. It's trying to have hit feedback without actually giving you like that anything else to work with.
Yeah, I think the hit feedback is bad. It's Call of Duty levels bad. And if you're familiar with Call of Duty, and the older Call of Duty is the only ones I really played. But the problem with Call of Duty is they had some really great set pieces in games like World at War, and they really look great. But it's often ruined the combat experience because when you're shot, your screen shakes and like your screen turns red and like you can't see anything. And so half the time you can't even look at things properly. And I think that is a very bad way to handle being hit because you're obscuring the player's vision like incredibly. It just makes it difficult to see, and it makes it difficult to even do anything, right? If you want to have like a, what do you call it, a suppression mechanic, I would recommend looking at Battlefield 3 or 4s, or even BF1s, where you get shot over the head and like things like hone in real quick as you're like, ooh. But even then, that can cause motion sickness. So there's, again, a lot of problems with certain ways of handling things like this. And I think that they definitely need to nail the combat down, because the weakest part about the game, in my opinion, is the combat, right? But at the same time, it's also, it's pretty fun when we pick and choose our fights, Squeal, and we down all the enemies, then we get the thing and get out of there like pros.
When we can actually take on what the game's throwing at us, it's okay. But most of the time, it just feels like they're gonna keep spawning enemies in this little corner of the area, and we just have to deal with that.
Yeah, it does feel like that, definitely. But all in all, I must say that Forever Winter started hitting out pretty good in terms of like over my interpretation of it, like in terms of how the combat feels, right? Or not the combat feels, but the atmosphere. Sorry, the combat's not the thing I meant to say. The atmosphere, I think I really like of this game. I just think that there's some quirkiness to it that they really need to hone down. That's why I definitely feel like Fun Dog Studios here is a passionate indie that can turn this around. And I do think that they will. I just think that they should have launched into early access with a bit more, less of this video, where they go on about like $50, and like that's like the core focus, and it's all about like
every time.
it sits badly with me because I get what they're saying as a fellow indie, but it's like, okay, don't do it that way. Like, you know, it's because it burned a lot of people on launch, and hopefully those people will come back, right? But I want them to succeed. And the $50 thing, like, yes, I agree. Games should be priced cheaper. In fact, they should be 40, but you know, whatever. We can have our disagreements, I suppose. But either way, like, the big thing is that games should be cheaper, not more expensive. That's true. And a lot of things, and they make a lot of industry statements. And a lot of industry statements that I actually agree with. And I think are actually good. And the fact that I now played their game and looked at their game, I definitely think they believe and they actually hold those principles true. And I hope that they keep those principles true going forward. And I think that's awesome. I think that's really awesome. However, the reason why I didn't like that intro video or that trailer, promotional trailer, because it felt more like a shield than let's be excited about our game. Let's talk about our game. It's wasting too much time talking about things that don't matter when we should be focusing on what makes Forever Winter a good game. Why should I be interested in Forever Winter? Not our competition's so bad that you gotta pick us. That's just like, okay, come on. There's no debate. Like, it's not really hard when you put yourself next to Ubisoft. Yeah, it's pretty easy to be better than them, or like Sony or other companies, you know? Major publishers and stuff like that.
Good job. You're above the shit meter.
Yeah, like, and I think they deserve better than that. I think they should put themselves and hold themselves to a higher standard and hold their chins high and be proud of what they've made. I think that's incredibly important. And that just may be a little bit of a personal disagreement, at least when it comes to my view set on this game and what I think the directions of it should be. But yeah, I think overall it seems pretty fun. I mean, what other issues do you have with it, Squealy Peely? Or no, actually, we already talked about issues. What do you like about the game?
I like the fact that there's large and imposing enemies on the field of battle.
The big mech
And
things?
there's always almost like a tank or like something intimidating like you have to hide away from.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I find it a little odd that we can't actually really fight them. I'll be honest.
Oh, we can.
If
We don't have the weapons. There's the anti-tank weapons. Remember from yesterday that chat was telling us about?
Oh, I wasn't there when that happened.
Oh, okay. You might have been making food. So you can fight them. It's just right now we don't have the gear to do so. Because, like, okay, so like a basic soldier has like 100 health or something like that. An exosuit has like 10,000, right? And
No,
an
100,000.
or no, that's the mechs. The exosuit has like 50,
Oh, yeah.
40,000, right? And then the big mechs, the big ones in like the field that are like boom, boom, and they have like the Roman skirt thing, and they got like those big cannons. Those ones are like 100,000 plus. We just don't have weapons that do that kind of damage yet. Because we have weapons that are starting to do like 100 damage, 100 damage. And that's like my AK reaching its maximum upgrades, output potential. It's like 200 damage now is what it does per bullet, I think. Which means I can start downing like basic enemies pretty quickly. And so as we're progressing, we're getting stronger and stronger. And that's a satisfying feel. Troops that used to be scary, if we see a horde of enemies, we can now effectively combat them. Now, if Squeal and I see a tank or an exosuit, even an exosuit, it's still too scary for us. But as we progress, they're becoming more and more like dealable, if that makes sense.
The transition from like the AK and to the from the surplus rifle is massive, because the AK is a single shot weapon. Not fucking hell. The surplus rifle is a single shot weapon, and it's not very good. In fact, it's really, really bad.
It's like a pistol more than anything.
While the AK it does the exact same damage, but shoots much faster.
Much faster. Get the extended mag, raise it to from 30 to 60. Get the improved damage output, raise it up to 200 damage. The surplus can be switched to auto, says Ying Yang.
Oh, that's barely functional, unfortunately.
Even if you do that, like it still only has 10 rounds. The surplus, in my opinion, is the free pistol or free gun you get. It's basically like, okay, you died, here's your free gun. I have yet to even upgrade my second gun slot for like a shotgun or something. I still have the basic surplus shotgun I need to dump out at some point. But yeah, no, this game is super fun, Chatfish. I really, really like it. And I think we're going to put it in our roster rotation. I mean, you guys seem to really like it. Every time we stream it, like we're doing super good. It's honestly another Helldivers is what it is in terms of like how it feels.
It could be another Helldivers, I feel.
Well, let me tell you.
I don't think it's there yet.
In terms of viewership, the back end says it's basically Helldivers 2. So as far as I'm concerned, it's Helldivers 2, but post-apocalypse.
In terms of funding, I don't know about that.
Maybe not in terms of funding, but in terms of viewership. So many new Chatfishies. No lemons to be squeezed or juiced. Like, don't juice me. But yes, this is Forever Winter. And I think that's more or less wraps up all the things I have to say about it. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is a little bit of video game preservation. And if you have anything you'd like us to talk about, chat, you can also put it in the Bickering Bunch discussions. Or is it that place? Yeah, I think that's the place. I don't think you guys have any subjects you want us to really cover. The only one I really want to talk about today is the California thing that passed. So all that California law really does is it just sort of makes it so that companies basically have to tell you that you're not purchasing a game. Like when we buy Forever Winter in the game, we don't own Forever Winter. We own a license. Now this is incredibly important because we talked about this before with Gabe Newell. Gabe Newell is an incredibly important figure in the industry. Gabe is important because of him and how he handles Steam and Valve, your games and your rights are respected. He basically makes it so that your games are your games. And that's good. But my concern is what happens? What's going to happen for us when Gabe's gone? and God forbid it happens, what happens then? Who does the stewardship of Valve and Steam pass to, right? Who's going to lead the company? Is it going to sell out to Microsoft? God forbid. I hope not. I hope not.
Microsoft want to buy Steam. It's not going to work out, I think.
I don't
I
like.
think they're getting closer and closer to a monopoly. That's the problem.
Yes, they are. And the monopoly needs to be shattered. That's the only time government intervention is, in my opinion, ever a good thing. The shattering of monopolies, so that small businesses can stand a chance. But yes, that's my concern. My concern is monopolization. My second concern is game preservation. And my third concern is customers' rights and the ability for you to own things. We should have some sort of protections, in my opinion, where we own the games. Like, they're our games. We own these games. Steam is too big to collapse or disintegrate, right? And if it does, we're not going to be worrying about video games. We're going to be worried about cans of dog food. So it's going to be a different problem. But my concern going forward is video game preservation, right? There's so many games that have been lost to the ethers of time and are only preserved via piracy or preserved by collectors and stuff like that, because people hold on to them, because they're in licensing hell. The Lord of the Rings movie license games, for example, or one such thing between EA and Lord of the Rings. The Harry Plooper games between fucking EA and Warner Brothers. These specifically licensed games that have no protections, that are just sitting there being sad and unprotected. Games deserve a little bit of protection rights and the ability for players to buy them without having to go through scuffy websites to get them. Like, I use Abandonware all the time to get whatever I need, because I normally own most games, but Abandonware even comes with fixes for old games. And to be honest, it's just kind of nice to install an old game and have it just run and not, not work at all, right? And so that's like the other thing, right? What about dog food? Zomboid comes to mind? Yes. Patch 42 is looking pretty sweet. Maybe we'll talk about that too, because there are some really exciting things on the horizon, Chatfish. Yeah, Bruce said he is immortal, so we're all good. Dude, I would hope so. Unironically, I would be very at peace if he was immortal, Because then I'd be like, okay, well, at least Valve and Steam is forever protected. But I don't buy it.
Gabe Newell become the new fucking Walt Disney meme, where he's not dead, he's just frozen in the freezer.
Oh my god, in like the basement or something. See, that's not true though, because Disney would not be happy if he found out about how Disney is operated today. At all. I think he would literally be fucking infuriated. I think he would be going on a rampage.
Martha, you are communist!
Yeah, Disney was a fervent anti-communist. I don't think it would work well. He actually stuck up. Disney's an interesting character in history, because he stuck up for artists' rights. Or at least for artists, and defended them against, dangerous unions. Because the art unions and stuff are scary. They are. They're big, giant mobs and bullies. But that's not the here or there, chat. What the heck was I talking about? We're talking about video game stuff. Video game preservation. Weird segue. But yeah, so that's good, because I think companies aren't allowed to be disingenuous anymore, right? Let's go back to PS3, right? Or your PSP. You have a PSP, you have a PS3, a DS, chat, do you have an Xbox 360? These older consoles. Did you ever buy anything on those marketplace stores? You remember that? You remember buying anything? I do. I could tell you I probably own an additional 100 games on some of these things combined, collectively probably over a couple hundred. Where are those games? Where's my Fat Princess? Where's Fat Princess, Sony? Where's my Fat Princess game? Fistful of cake. That's a really fun game.
Fat Princess.
That game is really fun. It's super fun, and I really like that game. And there's so many other good games that were on the arcades. But now, the Xbox Live Arcade, the Sony Arcade thing. What happens to your games when they pull the plug on PS3? What happens to all those games? They did that already. They pulled the plug on the Xbox 360 too. Now it is integrated with the Xbox One now, but there's no way for you to get your games back, is there? I can't plug my 360 into a Cat 5 and be like, I'm going to download my stuff back. They're gone, chat. They're gone. This is not okay. This is not okay. Something has to be done about this, unironically. I don't know how many thousands or, no, sorry, millions of dollars. No, sorry. Let's back that up. Billions of dollars in stolen goods. In my opinion. Because that's what it is. It's stolen. You sold these things as purchasable items and you never gave back, right? Microsoft didn't do that. I can't access any of those games anymore. I can't access those PlayStation games anymore. What happened to them? Chat, do you know what happened to them? Can you get them back? I don't think so. I don't think any of you can. I don't think any of us can. And that's another concern. Go ahead.
You remind me of when Bethesda released Fallout 76, and they said if you bought the physical version, like the actual case, it was just like a little like a little cardboard disc in the middle of it.
Yep.
That had an ID for you to download the game. So you can't. At this point, they're trying to avoid even making that available to buy a physical copy of the game, so that you still own it.
Yep. I think physical copies are incredibly important, and if I could buy physical copies of my entire Steam collection, I would. But the problem is some of these games, like Forever Winter, doesn't have a box. Don't get me wrong, I would really, really kill to have a collector's box of this game, or for Helldunkers, or any of my other favorites like Project Zomboid and stuff. That'd be so cool. But I don't. They don't have boxes. There are no physical discs. And especially because there are games in constant service now, right? So the gaming industry changed. And this is something that happened slowly and gradually over the transition from the 2000s over to the 2010s and on so, right? Games back in the olden days, they had to make them as good as they possibly could be if they were on console. And that was about as good as it could get until they got, like, the ability to update them, right?
More gold, Your Majesty.
AC donates 5 Kentucky bucks to say it's a lot like how most ancient writings are, lost to history, well over 95%. That's true. Where's Hunnic, chat? Where's the Hunnic language? We only have what the Romans wrote down. Also, there was a bunch of memberships gifted by Grumpy Rat and Harlot at the beginning of the stream. Thank you very much for your gifted memberships. My nose is all of a sudden stopped to hold on.
Did you read the AC 107 membership as well?
Oh, no, I didn't. Go ahead and read it.
He says, once we hook Disney's spinning body up to an energy generator, there will be enough power for an eternity.
That's probably true, Chatfish. We'll have a limitless power.
We have devolved into nerd kid mode.
Unlimited strawberry ice cream. Now, more importantly, Chatfish, put games on USB sticks or whatever. Yeah, but that shouldn't be your job to have to do that to preserve the games. And even then, that still doesn't work. What happens when that hard disk drive fails, you know? You're fucked. Now, the big thing is technically there is such thing as erosion, right? We need to talk about that, chat. Scientifically speaking, your video game discs will erode when you put them in the things. Your cartridges will erode. Eventually, those will expire. Whether you own physical copies or not. Now, granted, you'll probably be dead by then, but that's not the point. The point is that we need to preserve games for future generations because we can't be so selfish right now. It's selfish, Chatfish. We must ensure that capitalism can go on into the future. Forever. You get ya, culture. Video games? Yes. Or wait, 50% of that ancient writing is probably porn. Yeah, it is. You know why? Because humans like to procreate. Kind of weird, like a weird base instinct we have. We're like, I want to make more people. Zoomers coming to terms with things not forever. I'm not a Zoomer. I've already been in this reality for like ever since I was a little kid because I was thinking about
gold, Your Majesty.
all the time. In fact, we're not going to get into that story when I realized that things weren't permanent. Redneck donates 20 Sekiro, says, thank you for making my flu more livable. Well, thank you, Redneck, for donating 20 Sekiros. I don't know what I'll do with those copies, but, you know, I'll add them to my collection.
More gold, Your Majesty.
Redneck.
Uh-oh, your thing glitched. You might
Sekiros.
need to refund the second one, but thank you for the second 20 Sekiros. You can do that by going on to Google and basically requesting a refund. Yes,
Fuck.
on that. You should be able to get your money back and basically just say it was an error. I've seen that happen. But thank you for 46 euros, at least until they take the 21 away. He's doubling down. And welcome to the channel. Remember, chat, if you're new to our community, join the Discord server. I hang out there with you guys after stream and make fun of you. Like, okay. Oh, keep it? All right. Would you like to put it towards anything? Don't forget you have hashtags and goals to choose from. Because we always donate for goals. Wow, Cookie's already starting off today strong.
Yeah.
Clam even has money in it today?
No, Clam shouldn't have money in it. No, it's rather remove that one.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Let's see. All right, well, my brain distracted by clams for 5 seconds.
Oh, you have a Creamless, by the way.
Eh. Killjoy donates, or no, back up, $9.52 from Yazuke Tazaiko. He says, salutations. Hope everyone in Kibs is doing fine. Hope the tag is working fine. Very new to how Streamlabs works. Hashtag cookies with chocolate filling. That's true. No, the tags do work. We do manual input. There is no bots. If you know anything about me, I think automation should only be in something that requires or needs automation. When it comes to your money, I am not willing to let a bot do it because it would just fuck it up. And people who do that, don't correct that and just take your money. I'm not going to be one of those people. No, I'm just not going to do that. There's a thing you have to have with your audience, right? This relates to game industry stuff too. We have a trust between us, Chatfish. You know that I put the money towards the basic bare necessities of what I need to live, but you also know that I put it towards any excess goes to basically one thing, the game project. And I sped up a small, what is it, like $100, $120 like limit for personal things that I want per month. It's not a big budget. And I end up just gifting. When I don't use that, I actually just gift things. Like, I think the other month I gifted Plague Helldivers 2 because for the community. Because if you're gonna give back to the community, at least feed into the community. That's why I always hire from the community rather than from outside it, if I can. And no, I don't spend money on socks and dresses. In fact, I don't even spend money on socks. Look, Blake. Yeah, that's right, Blake. You downloaded it. That's a good. You're a good girl, Blake. He's like, oh, I hate when he talks down to me. It really pisses me off.
In fact, I'm genuinely upset now. I think I'm gonna leave.
I'm gonna kill Kib. Oh my god, murder him.
Avoid saying that, Kib, because that's bad things to
Oh
put.
no.
Kib.
Any plans for your avatar for Spooky Month? Chat already funded it. It's Aerith in a ghost outfit that looks kind of like another kind of ghost, but we're not going to talk about that here.
I'm afraid no sheets.
Well, we do have some games that we're going to be doing, chat, that you can start funding now, by the way. The classic Resident Evil series was one idea I had. I've never played a single Resident Evil game from the original trilogy. Or no, I played Resident Evil 2, the remaster, but I never played the original.
You also have FNAF Security Breach to go through, and that's wonderful.
We'll be relocating that to a different game, because that game wasn't even scary, apparently. Chat should get their money's worth, and I stand by what I believe. Oh. I think I tricked my head a little. Don't donate my money to church. I donate it to my studio, which is a church in itself that must be worshipped and praised. I try not to think about... Actually, no, I do think about it every day. I was working on it before I came here. It's like I try not to think about how much work I have to do.
I'm doing how much money you have to spend.
Right now, I'm doing 3 lore series at the same time. We're doing the writing for Second Age, Echoes of the Second Age, because when we launch the lore videos, I want to have a lot of them. Right, Echoes of the Second Age. The first recording for that is done. We've got the Battle of Broken Storms, the day 1, because it goes through each day. Then I've just started work on the War of the Five Emperors. Basically, that's the story with detailing our main. And then I'm going to do, the Rise of King Kanar and stuff like that. And my goal is to get all of these done. All of the lore built up and set up to point towards when the game begins. So Chatfish can have a full, excellent taste of what they have funded. Because what you guys donate for is honestly one of the greatest things I think has ever been made. And that's because I'm incredibly biased, and what we make is literally better than everything else. Alright.
Better than Helldivers, kid?
Hell yeah. Biggest in the truth. Oh no, they're speaking in fucking Norwegian. Oh, or wait, no, Swedish.
Norwegian.
The Swedes. We have a lot of Swedes. The Swedes are outbreeding the Norwegians. It's time for the Norwegians to be resubjugated into the Swedish Empire. I do very much believe. So, next we're going to talk about...
Also, did you read Killjoy's donation? The $5 one.
Oh, no, I didn't. The water system is what I call a Tamagotchi mechanic, where you get punished for not monitoring the game 24/7. It's what made me only do one playthrough of State of Decay. Yeah, that's definitely something that's not. Cookie, Skirt Fund, and Reggie Choice. The fact that you donate to Skirt Fund is more of a statement about the judge of your character than a statement of mine. Now, the other thing is, when it comes to the whole water thing, yeah. The reason why, right? Like, let's talk about live service games. There's only one quote-unquote live service game I've ever liked. And it's not even a really true live service game. In fact, it's actually in spite of it being a live service game that I like it. It's Helldivers 2. And the thing is, they have that whole real-life time thing going in the background where the wars constantly happening. But what I like about Helldivers 2 is that it kind of doesn't matter. It's like they have just events that happen. You can participate in them or not. And, like, really you miss not a whole lot. All you actually gain is just, like, a bunch of stuff when you come back. But they do something similar, though. The closest thing Helldivers 2 does to the water mechanic is the medal cap system. They have 250 medals total that you can generate. And you can generate those medals by not even playing the game. If you own Helldivers 2, right now you have probably, and you haven't played for like a month, you probably have 250 medals sitting there. But it's capped there. So you have to log in, spend them, and then log out. Which is tedious. But it's the least egregious thing I can think of because it's not... It is annoying, yes, and I think it is... I know why they do it. I know exactly why, and you all know
More
why.
gold, Your Majesty.
So you get in there. Should we do 7 days in Spooky Month? Same takes. What's 7 days in Spooky Month?
7 days to die. And technically you have...
Yeah, we do.
That was funded by Grumpy a while ago.
Why is the art not done for it?
Because
Which
Grumpy said
artist?
to hold off on it. No one's been signed to it because he said to hold off on it.
Punish Grumpy. Make Beano do it. Beano's fast.
Unlike all the other artists. Actually, Lycanfish is regularly fast.
Lycanfish, Indio's actually fast what he wants to be. Now that he got that Halo loot done, which is in the BH section of the Discord, it's cursed. But, oh my god, his work speed has increased. And now he's like, oh yeah, you get to work on our main, like, storyboard stuff. And he's like, I'm just zooming along now. He wants to get to that Armain art. I know it. But why would he do that? Why would he work harder?
He gets to draw big titties.
Alright, so, next we're going to talk about another thing that I'm interested in. Now, I often use Steam News to actually check for what I'm interested in because it honestly just tracks all the games I care about. And the ones I don't, which is just great. I love it. So, the big thing I want to talk about is Project Zomboid and Patch 42. It's something that's coming out in the near future. And if you're familiar with zombie survival open worldy games, this is a game you should check out too. But it's a game I would recommend waiting until Patch 42 drops, to be honest. The big thing they just talked about now is that they're adjusting the zombies with this heat map here to show zombie concentration, right? So before, zombies populations were just sort of splattered equally across the land, more or less, and slightly denser in certain areas. Now, there's going to be actually areas of the wilderness where there's not zombies every 5 feet. Because that's kind of annoying when you're playing the game and it's
Not
like...
possible.
There's zombies everywhere. There's zombies everywhere. There are more zombies than there are people that lived here.
I've killed all the zombies that could be here.
They got a really cool new painting, too, for the multiplayer lobby. And I'm wondering if they're going to start redirecting their art stuff, the cover art stuff. But here you got this girl with a shotgun trying to cover her teammates down here who are not in a good position because zombies are breaking out. Very cool. But yeah, all in all, Patch 42 shows a lot of promise. And the reason why Patch 42 is so interesting because it adds blacksmithing, animal husbandry, like a reworking of the crafting system. They're redoing the cities and the buildings to make them look a lot better. And they're also just making the game a little bit more believable. I think Indie Stone, which is the company's name, finally has enough resources and pull to do all the things they want. They're still indie, aren't they? Let's check. I'm pretty sure Indie Stone is.
I think they would be.
Yep, they still are. Good. Stay independent. Because I swear to God, fucking publishers are evil. So you can find the merry animals? No. No, they still need to add stuff for like electrical stuff and electrical engineering because there's no way to wire things. It's just a random bubble of sphere. So I do want them to actually add switchboards and stuff like that so that you can actually be an electrical engineer and actually do electrical wiring in the base. You know, like you can build it carpentry. What are you looking forward to most, Squealy, about them adding in PC?
You said piping, right? They're adding piping soon.
I don't know if they're adding piping. I can't remember. I think they're adding better plumbing, if I remember right. I think that's at some point.
Is that aligned with piping?
Yeah, maybe.
Either way, essentially being allowed to have water barrels that actually connect to your faucets that aren't directly beneath them would be very nice.
Mm-hmm. One of the other things they're actually thinking about adding as well down the line once they get the NPCs back is basically making it so you can actually have families. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, that's a really cool concept, but I like imagine having to play the game that long. Like that'd be forever. Like you have to.
We already played the game for a long time. We don't even get to winter half the time.
Yeah, we don't even play for winter, and it's like, okay, you gotta get someone pregnant, and they're gonna get like 9 months pregnancy, which I don't even want to know how that gameplay is to be pregnant. That'd be awful. And and then you have to give birth, and then you have to raise the child for multiple years. Like that's just terrible. Like, at what point would a child be capable of doing like labor, right, for like work? Like 6? So you have to put 6 years so you can put the gremlin to work or something in like the coal mines, like it's the 1800s. Oh yes, they're also adding a sewer system as well. Yes, 6 years, maybe 5. Yeah, I feel like that's just not a good idea. It's cool though. It does mean in concept, because the entire idea of Project Zomboid is about rebuilding society. In the same way we're talking about a lot of post-apocalyptic games today. But yeah, it's all about restructuring society and rebuilding. That's why blacksmithing is a big thing in this next update. Imagine that the preggers just makes this character extra fat. And then a miscarriage happens if you can't keep the calories. Oh, that's sad. It's pretty
even
depressing.
worse if a miscarriage occurs just because you fell over after being chased by a zombie.
God damn. So all in all, patch 42 looks like it's coming along quite nicely. The next thing we have to talk about is Age of Mythology. And Age of Mythology, a long time ago, released this expansion here. Mostly negative. For the Tale of the Dragon. It's about adding China to the Chinese mythology to Age of Mythology. It was not received well at all in the extended edition at all. And they're going to be doing it again. Now, this time around, I think it's going to be a lot better than last time.
Wasn't it because it was like really broken, the Chinese faction?
It was super
Or am I
rushed.
thinking of a different game? Oh no, I'm thinking of Red Alert 2, Yuri's Revenge. Because Yuri was broken, right?
Something like that. Or Yuri was broken. Yeah, sometimes there's expansion factions that are just released that are just obviously more powerful. And that's a problem. Like Total War has this too, where they release a faction and it's more powerful than the last. And we will talk about Total War as well, because it's been circulating in the news again, which leads me to believe that something new is coming. I sneezed hard on my head into the keyboard. My nose is bleeding. I hate this. You should take care of yourself. And
If your nose is bleeding, you should probably have problems.
Take care of that. Also, secondly, make sure you drink water. Make sure you eat lots of food, like soup, something nutritious, okay? Look after yourself while you're sick, all right? Take good care of yourself. Did I hear it right? Game gives us the option to impregnate kibs. No, it doesn't right now. It doesn't. Yes,
right now.
sicko.
In the future, probably.
But yeah, so the Age of Mythology game. I didn't get a whole lot of time to stream this, but it's actually pretty fun. It's pretty chill. And everybody who I know really likes Age of Mythology has been having a lot of fun with this. And so keep your eyes peeled for the Pillars expansion, because it's going to be nice to maybe see them actually do the Chinese expansion, but redo it and make it better. I'm hoping, because it was not very good when it first launched. It was very poo-doo. Talk about Tales of the Shire.
Oh, that shit. More DEI stuff. Isn't that interesting, kid? Fucking DEI Lord of the Rings is great, right?
See, when I first saw this, I was like, "Ooh, Tales of the Shire." They just said that picture of the environment, Then they showed us pictures of the characters, and they look terrible. There's hobbits, and they're DEI hobbits. Yeah, it's gonna be special. And so it seems like the Tolkien license is just getting handed all over the place. Now, is this Tales of the Shire like actually Tolkien-esque, or is it like Tales of the Shire, legally distinct Shire?
I was under the impression that it was Tolkien.
No, it is. I was kind of hoping in the back of my mind I was reading the Tales of the Shire, a Lord of the Rings game. Man, whatever happened to Lord of the Rings games? Oh my god. Basically, I think it's going to be like a Harvest Moon style game, is what it's going for. And a Harvest Moon style, like, Tolkien game would be really cool and chill. Especially for a lot of women. I know a lot of girls, and I know that they love Harvest Moon stuff. Absolutely. To the point where they try to drag me along, and I'm just like, no. No. I did want to. I don't want.
You can't make me.
But yeah, I can see the appeal of that, right? But here is like, oh my god, like the developers look hyper cringe. Now it's interesting in the trailer in the top there, they don't have the clearly LGBTQ plus, you know, pronoun warrior fucking people there. They have like this old dude who's just like, look, I'm not crazy. I'm just a normal dude. I've got books behind me with a nice light.
I'm respectable. How are you?
I'm respectable. I have self-respect. Well, there's always emulation, Shigari Lee, too. DEI to death. Yeah. And so that's my... Yeah, there. Oh, boy. I'm sorry. Like, judge a book by its cover, because you know why? Normally there's a reason for that. Now, we're taught often as children not to do that, right? But the reality is that sometimes there are certain things that mean stranger means danger. In this case, this game is stranger means danger pretty bad. And my biggest problem with this is that Tolkien games are so... They used to be so good, all right? Let's talk about some Tolkien games. I've got them on a shelf behind me, a massive shelf. We have Battle for Middle-earth, an RTS made by the Command & Conquer devs called Victory Games. They produced 3 Battle for Middle-earth games. Battle for Middle-earth, Battle for Middle-earth 2, Battle for Middle-earth Rise of the Witch King. All of which can be found on Abandonware, and all of which are very fun and worth playing. And these are really good RTSs that are just super fun. He plays the good guys, he plays the bad guys. Tons of fun, right? Another great example of another Lord of the Rings game that's also really good is Lord of the Rings Conquest, produced and developed by Pandemic Studios, the guys that made Star Wars Battlefront. Lord of the Rings Conquest is just Star Wars Battlefront, but Lord of the Rings. It's one of the last games they made before Saboteur, and Saboteur was a disaster. So that sort of killed them. But Lord of the Rings Conquest was pretty good. Again, you have a full good guy campaign where you can, defeat the forces of Sauron and evil, Mordor, and destroy Isengard. Or you could burn and raise the Shire in it, too. Just like you can in the Battle for Middle-earth games. I love how many of the games actually include the Scourging of the Shire.
The Scouring of the Shire.
That was called Scourging. No, Scouring of the Shire, yeah. It's pretty cool. And like you can play as the bad guys in it. I played a Tactics Lord of the Rings game on my PSP. That was really fun. Where you could play as the good guys or the bad guys. You could level up alerts and shit. That was fun. I played the weird Lord of the Rings JRPG on my Game Boy and also on my Xbox Original, I think. That was fun. There's also the cult classic Hobbit game. The Hobbit game is really fun. It's like an action-adventure game made for Xbox. I think PS2 as well.
Platformer would be...
Yeah, it's a platformer.
Yeah,
it's a platformer. And it's a pretty fun platformer. Sort of done in the old, like, Lord of the Rings cartoons art style. Like, there are tons of really good Lord of the Rings games. There's even the more obscure Lord of the Rings game, RTS, that I always forget the name of. That's more accurate to the books, but very weird. That came before Battle for Middle-earth. There's also the Shadow of War game, which is basically just Arkham Knight, but, with orcs murdering. Yeah, Third Age.
Kind of overblown system.
You have the JRPG Third Age, yes. And then there's the actual movie games themselves. Now, Fellowship of the Ring movie game I heard was kind of mid, but I do know that The Two Towers movie game was awesome. I remember seeing my cousin Adam fucking like sweating up a storm on the PS2 trying to beat that level with the where he has to basically stop the Uruk-hai from breaching Helm's Deep. Then there is the amazing sequel to that movie tying game, Return of the King. Return of the King is awesome. Return of the King is just like a really good two-player sort of like action beat 'em up, all like Golden Axe style, but like with friends. Like it's just really good. There's another Lord of the Rings game called Lord of the Rings War in the North, which is a action beat 'em up hack and slash that 3 players co-op. It's actually really fun. I actually fully recommend it. War in the North did not do well, and it is not the best game ever. No, it's not available anymore on Steam. I forgot about that. All right, Abandonware, you can get it there. All right, there you go. So, somehow the king has returned. That's funny. I hate you. War in the North is an RPG hack and slash. Yes, it's 3 players co-op, and it's pretty fun with friends. Grab 2 buddies of yours and play War in the North together, and it's really good time. Really good time. It's a little bit, not canon, but hey, man, I'll take the old Lord of the Rings non-canon games where they're like, oh yeah, there's a starry mages and Gondor and stuff and Rohan. It's like, okay, that's not really right. That's not really how that works. But it's more respectful than Rings of Power, which is an absolute travesty. The reason why I talk about all these Lord of the Rings games, and I wanted to name them real quick so that you can go and download them right now, go do that, is so that you get yourself a treat of nice games that aren't made by that thing I saw. I don't want to look at it again. That way you can have tons of things that you can actually enjoy, because the Lord of the Rings games are awesome. Do not let these new games bury what EA managed to do really well back in the day. And EA used to pump out a ton of great games. Like, even the Harry Potter movie games were actually pretty good for the first 3. Technically, there's 15 games that are all different, but, details.
Ignore that part.
That's back in the days where movie tying games would be developed differently by different studios for different things. So, technically, the movie tying games for Lord of the Rings, there's like 6 versions of them, or 4 versions of them, or something like that. Not as many as the Harry Potter one, like Sorcerer's Stone, which has 5. Because the Game Boy version and the Game Boy Advance version are different, or Game Boy Color version. Then it has the PC version. Then it has the console version for PS1. Then it has the PS2 uplifted version. So there's 5 different versions of the same game that are different. But these are lots of really good games that you can check out. And now that I've told you this, you now know about it, and your brain has expanded. I've enlightened you, Chatfish. So go out there, write that down on your little notepads that you have next to your buckets, and put them on your massive list of games. Whenever you have a rainy day, remember the Lord of the Rings games are really worth playing. Battle for Middle-earth, classic RTS, made by the Command & Conquer devs. The Command & Conquer devs. It is Command & Conquer Lord of the Rings, just like Lord of the Rings Conquest is Battlefront 2, but Lord of the Rings. It's pretty fucking awesome. They had a lot of great games. And Lord of the Rings still does have those great games. It's just, we're not going to get any new ones, probably. And that's okay. You know why? Because you know what? We don't need new ones. We got the old ones and they're just fine. Would be nice, though. Yep, if you own War in the North before it was taken down. Lord of Damn Rings. Yeah, pretty much. All of those games were mainly made by nerdy white guys. Good times. That was genuinely not always 100% true, but definitely true. There's also a different culture, right? People who wanted to make games, whether they were a guy or a girl, didn't really matter. It was they wanted to make games. It was the art of making games. And generally, they were mostly younger white dudes, actually, not old. They're actually pretty young. If you look at the Halo devs, especially back in the old days, a lot of them were kind of our age. And that they were, they looked young. Now they look a little old and wrinkly, but But yeah, that's all the Lord of the Rings stuff. All right, is there anything else Chatfish would like to talk about today before we mosey on up? It's not going to be a super long bunch cast because I wanted to really just highlight Forever Winter today, because Forever Winter is worth talking about. Oh, I guess there's the Total War thing. All right, if you want us to talk about something, type it in the Bickering Bunch discussions, and I'll give you my 2 cents on it. I don't always cover everything because I genuinely don't care about everything.
Genuinely don't care.
There's only so many things I actually care about. Total War franchise is one of those things that I don't care about nearly as much. Now, in recent days, it's been reviewed more positively, but again, I must underline that even in its current state, it's not a game really worth it. Like, it's just too expensive. But ignoring all that, and my petty grievances aside, actually, no, my well-justified grievances, actually. Well-justified. I've been
I call you petty.
a member of this franchise for fucking ever, and I've seen them at the height of their glory, and I've seen them wallow in their filth. But the thing is that they are working on a Star Wars Total War game, is what people believe. I think that is a pile of bullshit. Star Wars Total War would be a disaster because combat doesn't work in large block formations. Just like in 40k, it doesn't work in large block formations. It would be more tactical. Units don't advance like that in 40k or in Star Wars. They fight differently. They fight in squads. They fight in battalions. They don't move in columns like a bunch of Muppets. They figured out that that's kind of dual. So what I think is actually being developed here is not Star Wars Total War. Here's my actual thought. It's Empire at War 2.
Hold your majesty.
That's what I think is being made right now. Empire at War 2. Star Wars Empire at War 2. That's what I think it would be. It has to be. And that might be what Petroglyph is also working on as well, because Petroglyph stopped working on one of their projects to pull more team members away. Now, I kind of hope that Petroglyph is working on Command and Conquer, not Total War Warhammer, or not with the Total War team, because I would like a Command and Conquer remaster for Tiberian Sun and Riddler 2. But, only time will tell. We got a donation. Bro, Killjoy. Nope, not Killjoy. Redneck.
Yeah.
Joey Sekiros, would you be open to try Jagged Alliance too? If Chatfish fund it, yeah, we can do that. But bear in mind that our funding price is up to 400 USD, and it takes time to fund it. And you're not expected to fund it over a day. We fund it over the course of multiple months. They're small donations.
Well, preferably within a couple weeks. But yeah.
Preferably, but that's not always the reality. My Total War grievances is that China was created the perfect civilization in the only good fashion. Never mind. I don't even care about that. I am so fixated on this right here. This is disgusting. So for those who aren't aware, the reason why I find this game so deplorable is they sell you 3 separate games. You need Total Warhammer 1, Total Warhammer 2, Total Warhammer 3, and if you combine all 3 of them, you get all 3 of the faction small games. If you do that, that's $180 approximately. Now, even if you do that for $180, your factions are incomplete and missing all their stuff. And that's because they make unit pack DLCs, where you can get the rest of their unit rosters. And these DLCs include 2 factions usually, or maybe 3. And the reason why they do that is so that, well, you got a little bit of the Empire, but you also get this. And no lord is ever placed against the same lord twice, factionally. And the reason why they do this and they intermix up the lords is so that there's always a mixed pairing. So if you complete your Empire faction roster, you will have a couple lords in a bunch of different factions. And if you look at it and you map it out on a piece of paper, all the DLCs are tied in such a way that it's a circle, so that you will buy all of them. It is the most disgusting shit I've ever seen. It's not quite a circle, but it's just absolutely awful. It's absolutely awful. Because Twisted in the Twilight, the Silence and the Fury. These are 2 different lords, 2 different factions. The Warden and the Paunch, 2 factions. 2 factions. And again, they do that. And only in a couple instances do they sell a single faction. And even then, that had its own problems. Total War's been stagnant, mechanically and feature-wise. Even Pharaoh Total War was a step in the right direction. I had fun with that. But problem with even ignoring Pharaoh Dynasties is that, yeah, while it was better, it's still, not have all the features. The warfare is about as simple as the other ones. Medieval 2 and Rome 1 are just the same games mechanically when it comes to warfare as Medieval 1 and Shogun 1. The series has been stagnant. They don't actually have new features or functions. There isn't any new abilities to, morph the terrain, to build entrenchments if you get a chance to set up defenses, to customize your forts, to customize your cities, to customize your army units, to paint your armies, to name your regiments, to see your regiment names above their heads in battle and things like that, to level up regiments individually and have their own legacies, to all these things. I literally drafted a version of Total War if I were to make it for my own setting, because I was so frustrated with this game. I was so frustrated with this game that I made a better fucking design doc for my stuff, and I'm going to do something with it one day. I swear to God. But yeah, like, can you custom your units level up, right? That's it. They have no personalization. The officer in charge of your unit is non-existent. There's no officer. The officer of your unit doesn't have progression, right? I've thought about stuff like that. Like, every regiment, every unit, every battalion should have a commander. That commander should be able to progress and die. That unit should be customizable. Each unit should be personalized. The army shouldn't just be a general, it should be a series of characters that make up a party. Because if you look at armies throughout history and any stories, they're made up of generals, they're made up of officers, they're made up of logistics officers, and all these characters that play a pivotal role working together. What it is it's a large RPG. That what each army should be is its own RPG party that's moving through the map with its own story to tell. Well, Grumpy, if we increase funding by like 10 billion fold, that will happen. One day, I might be old, but it will happen, and we'll easily outshine these guys.
A bit expensive.
Bit expensive is an understatement. Because designing a Total War game is, you got to bear in mind, there's two different games you have to design. One is the warfare. Two is the campaign map. These things need to be good. The campaign map in Total War Warhammer is empty and barren. It has barely anything for you to do on it. Like, it's just like move army around. There's a city there, and there's nothing to interact with. You can't build forts on the map. You can't build watchtowers. You can't build bridges. You can't upgrade road infrastructure unless you mod it. There's no actual proper things there. Like, none of it really matters. And you need more. You need a lot more. Like empire management. Like the empire management of CK3. Let's talk about CK3. CK3 is a decadent franchise. It's a decadent game. It's better in terms of like having inner politics and stuff like that between your factions and stuff, but it's still bad. It's still stagnant, and we're okay with it. They've just been regurgitating the same stuff year after year, decade after decade. Gaming innovation has ceased to go forward with these major companies. They become so complacent, so afraid to grow, so afraid to add and build on their designs, that they don't do anything anymore. And that's a huge problem. That's a massive problem. That's why Forever Winter and Helldivers 2 are like the two things I'm focused on right now, along with like games like Project Zomboid. Games that are building something, right? Or Barotrauma, another one. Factorio, another one. There are games, that's 5 games I just listed right there, that are trying to push the genres forward, trying to build something, while most of the other game companies, like Call of Duty or Total War, are just regurgitating the same shit over and over and over again. And if you have fun with it, there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't want to say that if you enjoy games like these games, that's fine. But I think we should all be on the same page when it comes to wanting these games to improve. More features. We deserve better, don't we? I mean, we've been buying their games for how long? We deserve better. You deserve better. These games, these franchises, they deserve better. I keep telling people that to complacency everywhere, arrogance, ignorance, and complacency. I always read things with an accent, so I'm reading chat. See,
You gotta make them sound dumb,
Yeah, no. Chatfish noises. Total War Warhammer 3 is probably my worst Total War game because of the way they design DLC. Just doesn't feel like getting what I pay for. That's true. That's true. You aren't getting what you pay for. You deserve so much more. You pay $180 for a video game. You deserve the world. You deserve the next game. You deserve the third game after that. There should be no DLC for any of these games. Total War should not have DLC. DLC is a cancer. We allowed DLC to happen, and people weren't complaining loud enough. Some people were. Good job. But even I was too young and stupid to know any better as a kid. I don't get it. I didn't see it. I didn't understand. I couldn't understand the maliciousness of it. But now that I'm older, I see it now. When it comes to this DLC stuff, Total War should not be having DLC at any point ever. It should be a, here's the game we made, fully complete. All features, all factions, all in there. Anything else is a free update. And that is how they make the game. That is why Medieval 2 is still dominating in terms of Total War. It's still dominating. You make one really good game, because you have to ask yourself this. This is the same question I asked myself when I was working on my project, right? Because our game's still not done, and it's been years, and it's going to take many more years because we don't have the resources. But I'm committed to the project, right? And so you have to ask yourself, do you want to make 100 good games? Or not, sorry. You want to make 100 games, 100 mediocre games, or would you rather make one timeless game? And that's the question I ask myself every day and remind myself about what I'm working on. Yeah, I could cut corners. I could cut a lot of corners. We could get it done really fast. But I wouldn't be proud of it. And it wouldn't be my passion project anymore. It'd be a chore. And I would rather, even with Total War and Creative Assembly, I would rather them literally just take their time with it. Just take more years. If it takes 4 or 5 years to develop one truly great game, that great game will be timeless. It will sell forever. You won't need to make yearly based games. Because as new generations mature and watch YouTube videos or look at the internet or talk to their friends or see their dad playing it, they're going to want to buy it too. And so you're going to have a constant influx of new people into the industry. There are always new people getting PCs. There's always new people looking for RTS games, right? And I want to play them. You will always have new gamers coming. Because gaming is more than just a culture. It's part of who people are. Before video games, it was, rolling dice, playing cards. Before then, it was doing that in antiquity. Doing that, unironically. Humans innately love to game. We always have. It's just what we do. We're just little gamers in this sea of space, trying to make our way forward. Prav, you can check the channel to see when things are scheduled, you blind bastard. You Philheim. But I appreciate you asking all the time. Part of me thinks you just do it to be a meme. We compromised DLC for cosmetics to begin with. Remember that? Now look at us. Yeah, see, I didn't even care about Oblivion as a kid. Because I remember the Horse Armor DLC people talk about a lot. But it was going to happen inevitably, whether it was there or somewhere. And the battle would have happened. The problem with other things when it comes to studios is inflation, right? How many people that work in Creative Assembly are actually important, that the studio actually needs? In reality, very few. What normally it ends up being is nepotism. A lot of them are hired because they're friends, or they have the right political views. And because they have those things, that is exactly why they want them to work on the game, or do these things, or do that, or this, right? It's not that they're the best skilled for it. I got into an argument with another developer over this. A developer from Harebrained Schemes, when they were hiring based on race and gender. And I confronted this developer and was like, shouldn't you hire based on merit and skill? And they basically called me a bigot. They said that was dumb and outlandish. And I was like, okay, you do you. You continue to make HBS Battletech a mediocre and forgettable game. And it still is a forgettable game. People are so starved. Even the starved audience they had was so disappointed with it, they had to mod it to make it any sort of useful, like whatsoever. And it still has problems. It's still sloppily made. It's just no heart, no passion. It was made for an ideology. And it was made to destroy what was good, not to promote it, not to cherish it, not to love it. And that is why, Chatfishes, that is why it's incredibly important, and this is all tied back to Forever Winter, and even Helldivers 2, and even other new games that are coming out, even that Yoshai game, that whatever, what's it called? Ghost of Yoshai or whatever, the woke game now.
Ghost of what?
Yeah, that's the new Ghost of Tsushima game.
Is it?
Yeah, Yotai or something. I don't know.
Huh?
Yeah, they're making a new game.
Let me look this up. Ghost of Tsushima 2.
It's Ghost of Yotai. It's called something else, yeah. One more for Steam. One more
okay,
for
you
Steam list, yeah, pretty much.
Ghost of Yotai is the sequel, yes.
But that's why I want to tie back to Forever Winter. And this is all related. I know, I sort of walk on miles around my topics. I criticize other people for that, but I am the worst. But the reality is the Forever Winter game is a game with passion. It's being made by people who care. It's being made by people who want a good game. And so while I don't recommend buying it just yet, I do recommend wishlisting it. That button will be here if you don't have it. I own it, so I do. Because I do think that games with passion, games like Project Zomboid, games like Forever Winter, games like Factorio, these games, this is a couple, and I've said more throughout this stream, but they should warrant at least attention because they are passionate. These are people who are actually going to improve things. Another game to look forward to and keep your eyes on if you're an RTS fan is Dorf, or DORF, right? Because this is made by a passionate indie who wants to make a game that's sort of set in the old sort of Command & Conquer style RTSs. The stuff I really miss, the games we don't get anymore. Keep your eyes on games like these, because games like these are often, if given enough love, will be the games that grow, will be the games that truly actually begin to change the industry, because they're building on top of where great games left off. And that means when they're successful, they have to build on top of that. And so we march forward for progress, for the good of gaming. A word that's also been raped. Poor progress. You were such a beautiful word. It's like, hey, it's okay, little word man. But yes, there are many, many games. Like another one I'll point out. Another passion project I've been following. I follow so many. Might need to do a stream where we just talk about it. It's like Dustborn. And this is another really good one. Got a really cool, quirky art style. There's a lot of games
in there for a moment.
No, not Dustborn. Fuck that. Dustborn.
Like great games like Dustborn, subsidized by your tax dollar.
Ugh, well, terrible. Because there are good games and there are indies out there. Many of them. These are the warriors of the front line, in my opinion. These are the actual soldiers that are fighting to improve the industry. These are the heroes. And it's important. Even if they fail, it's important to give them a chance. You know why? Because if we show that we're willing to give these companies a chance, even when they fail, other indies will be inspired to do the same. And eventually, there will be successes. There will be more Factorios. There will be more Project Zomboids. There will be more Forever Winters. There'll even be things like Helldivers 2 on bigger scales that'll start cropping up too. There'll be things like that. And we can have our cake. We just have to be willing to believe in it. Don't become black-pilled. Keep looking. Keep your eyes open. And be patient with little indies. Because indies are awful. They make bad games. They make a lot of bad games. And they often take forever to do anything. But if there's anything I know, and I know it well, is that they'll never give up. And if you put patience in them, that patience and passion can be rewarded. Huh. Try to speak there.
And you call me Stutter Boy.
Yeah, I'm turning into Squealy because I'm doing all the work here. Ugh, flexing. Ugh. Yeah, I'm pretty strong. Yeah, no big deal. I get all the ladies.
Saying I get ladies' gifts? Nice.
I said I get all of them. You get none. Mine.
But pretending to be me, you get ladies.
Mine.
I think you fumbled with your words.
Wow. Rude. Hurtful. I might even cry. One such passion project game is Elin. Well, I mean, Chatfish, if you want, you can always DM me. If you're an indie, like I've said 1,000 times, you're working on your own thing, you can always DM me. I don't normally cover stuff because I don't want to snuff out the flames of my things because I have a small audience. But I will, when I get my stuff up and running, not pull the ladder up. That's a promise. Because I never have left a friend behind. That does happen, though. Just warning for other indies out there, that does happen. That does.
Leaving friends behind?
Is where some people do that, yeah. When they find success, they just abandon everything. And that's something you have to be wary of, because success can change people. You need to steel yourselves and your will, right? Because getting money and seeing profits can blind you. When we have a successful stream, I have to ask myself, all right, Was it worth it? Was it worth it playing Fur Shades of Gay 3? No.
No, it really wasn't.
I should have
You
asked
didn't have
for more.
to complete that game, Kibs. You really didn't have to.
It was terrible. It may not be small to you, Shikari, but the reality is, in the grand scheme of things, it's tiny. If I had 100,000 subs and had like 1,000 people watching, I'd still be a peanut. I'd still be a peanut. I'm a peanut of a peanut. And you might be a peanut of a peanut of a peanut. But just remember, keep trying and you'll get there. That's also why I don't really work with other content creators. Okay, you know what? A little bit of actually, because there's a lot of you here apparently, I want to give some advice that might actually help you. Because nobody ever gave me advice. And that was something I swore to God I would do when I ever got some success. The big first number one thing. Careful on collabing. Number two, don't over collab your audience away. Number three, don't shill your audience away. A lot of people I see in beginner mistakes, they try to help everybody. Don't help people when you don't have the ability to do it. I don't have the ability to do it, so I don't do it. That's why I told my friends to stop raiding me. Because I'm like, don't raid me, because all that's going to happen is I'm going to steal your viewers. And that's what happens. Like a lot of you, I stole you. In your mind, I'm not going to let you go. I'm not gonna let you
Your
go.
property now.
But that's the reality. That's also why I told them to stop, because I don't want to do that. I don't want that to be. I want to gain new viewers naturally, through natural growth, the natural and organic way, without siphoning off of my friends. It's just, it makes me feel bad inside. It makes me feel icky, and I don't like it. And it's also just dangerous, because I've seen it on a bigger scale happen to a lot of bigger content creators, where they over collab, and I have some friends who did that, and they collab their audiences away. Be careful on that, right? If you got your indie projects or whatever you're doing, be careful on over collabing. It's okay to workshop ideas with each other, but never shill each other until you make it. Otherwise, you'll snuff yourself out. Don't do that.
More gold, Your Majesty.
Wait for he has a donation for you, kid.
Chumba donates $5 to say, to punish Reguline for his transgressions, he must change his avatar to the face of the new art for Regulina. Suck fun, but yeah, cookie, avatar change. That is incredibly cursed.
That's $500. All right.
Only 500? All right, not bad. That's actually really reasonable. Yeah, we can have that before the weekend's over.
Reguline for. So I
Pretty
know
much.
why he wants to do that.
But yeah, that's the one thing I want to talk about. Yeah, just don't over collab, right? That's why I don't really do anything with other indies too much anymore, because I realize that there's nothing I can do to really help them without hurting myself and hurting my team and hurting everything that I'm trying to make. And that's why it's incredibly important that you guys know this too, okay? Try to build yourself up. Try to become strong. Do the best you can, and then don't do anything until you make your thing. Don't blow your load too soon. Just like, oh, no, but you gotta listen to me on this.
Load, Mr.
And I'm not kidding though. I'm trying to help these pros. So like, it's important to do that, right? Focus on your thing, build up your thing, make your thing. Don't try to pull on others right away. If friends want to help you, then they want to help you. But always advise that same thing if they're also in the sphere of creation. That's important. It's incredibly important, because I've seen that happen, and that's my PSA to other creators out there, to protect yourself. Because too often do people go on tangents about, you gotta help everybody, you gotta stop. No, you don't. Don't help everybody. Most people, and listen to me, when I started doing this years ago, everyone I know has quit. I am the only one still going. All of them quit. And I did try helping them, and it didn't really do anything in the end, because that's going to be a strength of character that's going to be on them.
More gold, Your Majesty.
And you know what? There's nothing wrong with quitting if people want to quit either. So don't be mad at them either. They're still your friends. Never forget that. Just remember that not everybody's going to make it in the indie sphere. The indie sphere is a meat grinding, and most of us won't make it. And the most of us that do make it are going to end up producing something mediocre. And that's okay. You know, it's your first product. You know, maybe it's not going to be the best, right? I'm trying my damnedest, and that's why mine's taking so long, to make it perfect, as if it was made by a big budget studio. And it's cost me. I don't sleep a lot. I don't eat always, and I stream a lot to fund it. but I genuinely want to do it this way. And that's what I've set my heart to doing. And I don't recommend it for everybody, but if it works for you, you know, awesome. I'm still standing better than I ever did. Honestly, yes, unironically. I'm stronger. I am become more stronger.
Ranger.
Grumpy donates $10. I support Rapier's plot. Sock Fun, Fit, Cookie, Regulina.
You're a bad person.
That's unfortunate. Your profile picture will be changed on the stream over.
At least it's the attractive Regulina. He looks nice, despite what's going on in the image.
Are you sure we shouldn't? It should, whenever you talk, flash to the brute.
Oh, that's awful. You need to fund what was it? Discord Nitro for me to do that.
He's like, I don't want to do that.
For
Oh, don't
Your
worry,
Majesty.
we can actually program that the overlay, so it just does.
Oh, the overlay can do that. I'm not. It's on Discord itself.
Ace King donates $20, one per game. You know, maybe we should turn this into studio time too. So let's we'll extend this bunchcast because it is a little bit of a shorter one today, because I actually managed to get through all our topics relatively quickly. Oh my god, we did. So yeah, I'm gonna cover my screen. I'll bring some stuff up to share with my little chat friends. Hey, widow chat friends. I do appreciate when you guys echo me like that. It's kind of weird, but I appreciate it. Good thing I don't have my screen up, otherwise I'd see things. Things that would get me banned. That'd be dangerous. You've seen this already, chat. I've showed you guys. At least I've showed you some of this stuff. All right, let's see. I don't know if I have it. I do like how this is a thing. What about Armane?
What about?
Extend it to 12 hours.
25 PLNs. If Kib doesn't eat, Kib will be fed in the most cursed way I dream of. SF fit Regulina's profile sandwich.
Thank you for your generous
I like
donation.
it.
Really appreciate it. So, we'll talk about our little indie project because that's what this channel is dedicated towards anyways, right? So, the thing we're working on, for those who are new, is a project called the Mixers Project, or Legends of Terrestria, or Terrestria at War. We're developing two things at the same time because, you know what? I just got lucky, and honestly, that just happened to work for me. I know, it's strange. It's weird that they don't actually eat into each other's resources. We got very fortunate there. That's because we have a lot of volunteers, though, which we do owe a lot of credit to, right? So this is some promotional art that's being produced for Terrestria at War. Terrestria at War is our tabletop war game that we're making, and it's meant to be played on, you know, Tabletop Sim for now. Eventually, I would like it to ideally have its own program because Tabletop Sim isn't very conductive to working with these kinds of things, but, you know, one thing at a time, right? And it's being worked on by a volunteer team that's led by our volunteer, Rapier Kamigawa, who deserves commendations and a shout out, by the way, because this guy has literally been carrying this project, like the tabletop stuff. If it wasn't for Rapier volunteering to help out, I would just not have the time to develop this. And if it wasn't for you guys that volunteered to join the tabletop tester group, which is publicly available to join in the Discord server, we couldn't have this. It's not possible. I just don't have the time to do it. I only have the time to write lore. And if it wasn't for the tabletop team doing what they did, couldn't have any of this. Couldn't have done it without you guys. This is entirely Bucketfish strong together. Chatfish strong together. This is absolutely the power of the community. The fact that this is actually being able to go on. Good night, Redneck. Take care, buddy.
Have a good one.
So the big thing that we're working on right now that I'm trying to get out to you guys that's going to be coming to the channel, as far as channel updates go, because I normally used to do channel recordings, but I guess we'll just do it here as well instead of doing it there. So this channel update is going to be talking about the videos. So the lore videos, here's a panel from one of them. They're still coming along. One of the problems that our lore videos definitely suffered from, and this is something that I hope I've stressed among the team, is bloat. Too many panels. We don't need this many. They're good, and they're really good, but we can't afford this many. We can't afford this many. They're too expensive. Damn it. They make me stream forever, and I still don't have a lore video to work with, despite the fact the script is done. And the recording's done for this one as well. This is part of the Echoes of the Second Age. So there are 3 series I'm producing at the same time for lore videos on the channel that you'll be seeing relatively soon. The channel will be going through restructuring and reorganization. The first series is actually probably not going to be the Echoes of the Second Age, mostly because the picture bloat. There's so many panels. It's really good, though. Like, honestly, it's really good. Carlos outdid himself here. I cannot stress how amazing it is, but he might have gone far too above and beyond the Call of Duty, to the point where I think he's going to be a little singed corpse by the time he's done. But this is the Echoes Second Age. This is set, like, before the events of the game, before the Age of Terrestrium and stuff like that. And so it's basically like building up the back lore of the setting a bit more. And then we have more stuff coming, promotional posters from show as well. But the stuff I've been working on is actually the script with Robin's help for the Battle of Broken Storms, which is basically a period in terrestrian history that is set right... Where was it? My good old trusty dusty map. Let's turn that off. All right. So a lot of these names are placeholder, and a lot of them are still being reworked. But, excuse me. My nose. I'm gonna try to sneeze. Here's the world map. This map is incorrect because technically this is supposed to be closer, and it has to be redone. But whatever, because we did the measurements wrong. That's the problem. And it's unfortunate because it really is making writing difficult, because like when I measure the distance between cities, I need to know the distance it takes a character to travel from one location to the other, either via carriage or layak or whatever, or boat. And so without the accurate distance measurements taken care of, it's hard to map multiple character movements, because when I write stories, all my characters are always active, meaning that everybody is doing something. Everybody takes their turn in the Great Game. I call it the Great Game, and what that basically means is the story is ever present, ever active. Any characters on stage, both indirectly involved in the story or indirectly involved in the story, are constantly playing what we call the Great Game, meaning moving forward. This is a writing term that I use. It's not necessarily something that will be in the game, because you won't even see it. I mean, you'll read it, pretty much. But yeah, so the Battle of Broken Storms. It's basically, how do I put it? So, to quickly describe the situation we find ourselves in at the point of the game, this is about 60 years before the, what do you call it? The start of the game, if that makes sense. And this is about the extent of the Astron Empire's territorial holdings at this point. Granted, it's sort of like this. But there. So you get an influx feeling that there was a migration that happened here, which is causing pressure to go there. And you've got, like, massive attacks going here, there, and there. And so the Empire's in a state of basically, like, decline, right? And so we're writing about a story about a campaign that takes place, and this is for the tabletop team, where the Astrians begin to withdraw. And they withdraw to a key point for defense along the great river of the Osos, which is here, to make their stand at the city of Estios. And that's going to be incredibly important, because that's where the big tabletop setting for the campaign for Estios takes place at. And so you guys will be playing with characters like Emperor Daros, who's currently in command of the Astrian Empire, and the Onagdir Martok, who is the current Onagdor of the Nefir, and his Jedi here is Oktir Edzer and stuff like that. So it's between these two factions. We've also been working on a side thing from mercenaries that come from Cilicia, and we're not going to talk about them too much, but they're very important, and they're going to be the next faction we're going to introduce. They come in to basically help the Astrians, because they were contracted to basically reinforce them, because the Astrian Empire is doing a lot of stuff. You got, like, troops trying to get back, everybody's trying to get there, and it's basically just tracking all that information, because we have a lot of active characters, right? Because we have Memnon Torius in the north, we've got Emperor Daros actually at the city, we've got his son, Tyro, who is literally leading defensive battles, basically, to hold back the Horde while they try to build up the defenses in Estios. And it's like all the stuff I've been working on, because it's a pivotal moment in the Astrian history where they finally stop being at war for just a fucking moment. Because up until this point, since the reign of Armain, they've been at war, in a perpetual state of war, losing territory, right? Because the former imperial territory borders are like this, right? And so it's a sort of a story about degradation, decline, but also perseverance, if you want to use it. Though the word perseverance is not necessarily the word, right? It's about empire, it's about God. And it's about having faith. But yeah. And you can see that they've often, they've lost quite a bit of ground here. But That's like the entire gist of the idea. This is a very much a living map that's under constant change and needs to be finalized. So I'm hoping we can get this working soon because I would love to get this finalized. The actual map for Battle of Broken Storms will be kind of like this. And we actually have the map of Estios as well, though I fear opening it would be a disaster because I fear that there are spoilers on the map. Let me check. There probably is. There is. Let's turn those off. All right. This is the actual map as illustrated by Sala. That actually is the where the Battle of Broken Storms takes place. The Nephiric Horde, by the way, for orientation reasons, is coming in from like this side here. And for the tabletop team, you're getting a cool sneak peek here.
Sneaky peeky like.
Yep. That's the basically the west, right? So this is the east. The map's kind of at an angle. This is the north, and this is the south, right? And so now you know that Santi Loru and his mercenaries are going to come from there, and the Ashrian reinforcements are going to come from there. And this map is going to be important because this is actually going to be the first time we have a multi-staged battle in which Chatfish can play to basically play out scenarios. And you have to hold like certain sections, like the front of the city here is also its own thing. The sections over here, the bridges of the Unity Bridge itself is an important point. The bridges are incredibly important strategically, and we'll be briefing on that whole thing. But I'm very excited because that's what we're working on. Those the troops kips. Love the regular troopers with spears. You want to see the troopers? Okay, we can show you the soldiers. Soldiers. Just enough of the grand movements. Now, where did we put the trooper art? I think it's under Terrestrial War, if I remember right. Sort of there. Honestly, I'm better off just going into my DMs with Carlos, where they're all gonna be. Good thing I'm covering my screen. It's fucking terrible. Alright, let's see, Carlos. Where did you dump all that art, boy? Boyo. El Boyo.
Is it your DMs, probably?
It is. I had him a while back do this.
There it is.
Okay, I just need to make sure I don't dox anything personal. There we go. This is some of the artwork. And I had Carlos compile this because we just got another artist to help out with the storyboard. So here's a Nephir guy. This is a Nephir fire shaman, basically. The Nephir are broken into different shamans, so you have your fire, earth, and water, sort of your basic elements, and their whole religion's about... You know what? That's Stone Lore video. Let's not get too autistic about this, or we'll be here all day. Then we have a Palatina Guard. This is a non-Illumine. This is an actual Illumine character. Illumine, if you're not familiar with our setting, or think of them as mages, basically. It's just our technical term for them. Mages or wizards or shamans. They can do magical things. We don't normally call it magic in lore because we have kind of rules and laws and how it works, but for all intents and purposes, people new to the setting, it's easier just to think of it as magic until you get comfortable. This is a Palatina Guard. These are house guard troops for the Astrians. They guard the Emperor and his children, basically, the firstborn princes, and the Battle of Broken Storms. There's Oak Tier Edzer and some early concept art of him. He's just a cranky boy. He's not evil, he's just misunderstood. He just got a big skull, you know? Some actual militiamen for the city of Estios, who were rallied by a character called Captain Ennius Ender. Oh my god, there's so much stuff. There's too many characters. There's Nemor Veti, Memnon Torius, Atoli Thist. He's the great-great-great-grandfather of the the Valen dynasty. Then we have Ennius Ender, and there's Stanti Loru. The Stanti Loru might get some reworking. Carlos wanted to try something with the mini masks culture, because they're Cilicians and they have their own aesthetic. But the cultures are very rich and diverse. And so that's what we're going with there. More of the Cilician mercenary troops. Bear in mind, those are going to be important for later chat. An Ephiric slave master, giving the feeling of oppression. Bear in mind that Astrian, when it comes to culture, right? The use of body parts on one is considered pretty profane, right? Pretty disgusting in most cultures, right? But when it comes to Astrians, the thought of not cremating and burning the remains of a loved one means that their spirits are forever trapped. And it's a rather horrific thing when you think about how Astrians view spirits.
and being tied to like corpses and stuff like that. And so it's like, okay, if their spirits aren't burned into ash and then put into vases or like little jars, then their spirits are still trapped. And so the idea of burying somebody is like trapping their spirit. Astrians are get a little bit squeamish. So unit cards, where's the unit card art? Grumpy rat. You know where it is? Because you guys work on the unit cards more than I do. I work on the lore docs. What I normally end up looking at is walls upon walls of text. And if you're slavers, and if you're bowmen, then if you're, I just really love the look of them. They're really nice. A spear beak. Who doesn't love them? I don't know why, but every girl I've shown the spear beak, like, they really like spear beaks. Poor Lyak. Lyak gets no love. It's sad. Sad, Chad. But yeah, Raffles has done an outstanding job with the troopers. The Astrians have a very different flair. A bit more refined. A bit more civilized. The Emperor Daros is redesigned. So if you haven't seen his redesign, that is Emperor Daros. He's got a giant star steel war pick. Pretty fucking cool. That's very good, Chatfish. But yeah, this is where your money goes. This is what you're funding when people donate. That's why our goal bar is so ridiculously big. Just is what it is. Now, I procrastinated long enough, and I haven't received anything, so I think I will... Oh, you're gonna do it? Alright, fine. Make it snappy, Choomba, because I also have to stream Mass Effect 3 today, and we gotta make today's goal, which we still haven't made, and tomorrow... Or no.
Yesterday's goal.
Yesterday's goal. Yeah, we're still working on yesterday's goal. We're a bit behind this
We're
week.
$20 off.
We'll get there. Might have to overstream this bit. Oh, Chatfish. But yeah, as far as the Bunchcast goes, it's more or less just us meandering and being comfortable. I would like to do these as separate streams, to be honest. Separate to the Bunchcast, because there's a little bit more difference about our stuff, but I like to share it, because honestly, it's really cool. We couldn't actually make this without you guys. It's entirely due to you guys being here.
It is your doing that this is made.
Yeah, right. I have a DM. I don't want to dox him. Wow, way to take a tiny picture. Way to take a
Wow.
Oh, the unit card art. Yeah, we showed this before. But yeah, this is the unit card stuff. These are just the various units for the Astrian Empire. I am a big sucker for detail work, and so one of the things we have is every back of the cards, unique per faction, like spells and stuff like that. Like, the idea with our tabletop is that the unit cards make it easier to play, so that when you actually have to deploy your troops or whatever, you don't have to reference the actual core rule book or the army book. You can just have these cards out. These cards allow you to actually see your units and what you have in your army build. This makes it so much better and will require less back and forthing through the book. It's all about ease of play and the ability to play the game pretty seamlessly. But yeah, these pictures are doing pretty good. Pretty good. The unit card's coming along quite nicely. The Astrian Empire is got a ways to go before she's done, but once she's done, that's one faction down. Then we're on to the next faction, which is going to be the Nafir. And eventually we'll have them all done, and then we can, well, begin to add more things. More factions. There's no shortage of factions, honestly. By the way, if you are curious, the tabletop is free. You don't need to pay to play with us or our team. You can just join. In the Discord server,
More
the
gold, Your
Terrestrial War
Majesty.
section, you can come and play and just romp around with the guys. Help us iron this game out. We don't want to charge, and I don't think early access is something I feel is good. That's my personal disagreement with some companies doing that, but that's like my own stance, and I just do my own thing. People like doing it, and that's fine for them. But yeah, when it comes to testing for us, it's always free. So if you want to come in, try it, give it a shot, feel free. If you like it, great. If you can help us refine it, awesome. If it's not your cup of tea, no worries. Thanks for stopping by. There will be more stuff on the horizon, like pen and paper and a actual video game. Yes, one day in the nebulous fucking future, but one day nonetheless. Either way, Chatfish. O'Harlot donates Sandwich Supremacy, donates $30, says, I'll take an Indio Chatfish to go. Hashtag sandwich. Thank you for the donation. Very generous.
That will make Fridays go. Oh,
Will it? 15s, will
oh, sorry. Never mind.
Remember, it's half.
Before I was off. Yeah.
India's not integrated into the system, and because he's not integrated, we deduct half. Albania seems like a nice place. I don't mind. Albania? What the fuck? Oh my god.
That does add $30 sandwich regard.
It does, yes. Putting sandwich in the lead. Oh no, not quite actually. Well, either
That's
way,
close.
chat, we've meandered a bit too long, in my opinion.
What's his name?
Don't you don't speak to me. I will handle the outro. Yes, no self-narrating from you, kitty. Probably gives membership. Thank you for the gift of membership. But yes, we're gonna raid into the next stream, which is set to be Mass Effect 3. We're gonna play that and try to beat that today, because next week we have a pen and paper campaign. If we don't beat Mass Effect 3 this week, then it will not be happening next week, sadly. So that's why I'm going to try to beat ME3 today, so we can move on and do something else on our Saturday slots. Either way, Chatfish, thanks for your donations. Thanks for hanging out. And yeah, be sure to wishlist Forever Winter, because I think it's an interesting game. I think it's worth checking out, honestly. It's really fun. And either way, Chatfish, we will see you in a few minutes. It might say an hour, but I'm literally just going to set it up right away. So don't worry. I'm just going to be setting it up. See you there, chat. Goodbye.
Bye now.